Hello again, all you whiskey tipplers. This is Mark from WhiskyWhistle, and a Happy New Year once again. Today is another special edition of WhiskyWhistle. We're going to be looking at yet another of the WhiskyWhistle Whiskies of the Year. This time, in fact, we're going to be looking at something a little bit pricier. So I've called it the Best Spend It Single Malt Scotch Whiskey of the Year. So without further ado, let's get started with that, and then I'll show you what is underneath this little white cloth that I've put there. Let me get the pictures rolling here. There we are. All right. Now this comes from one of my favorite distilleries, and anyway, there it is, the Best Spend It Single Malt Scotch Whiskey. Let's have a little bit of a drum roll. And that is Glenmorangie to Sale. There it is. Yes, one of my favorite distilleries. This was the one that got me really into single malt Scotch whiskey, and I still do enjoy all of their offerings. I haven't tasted a Glenmorangie that I didn't like. Hopefully I never will. Anyway, what's special about this one? This is a private edition for 2015. It came out sometime in February of 2015, and I bought some and had some shipped here to Korea, and ended up spending an arm and a leg in taxes, which is a shame. Really hurt. I was thinking, well, what to do, but I thought, you know what? I'll just pay the taxes. It'll go to some good use, I'm sure, and that way I can get the bottles that I had purchased. Anyway, so I went with it, and I kept the bottle for a very long time. Finally opened it just on Christmas Day with some good friends at the ready, and we really enjoyed it. 2 out of 3 of us really enjoyed it. Joel, if you're watching, Joel, who also tried it, well, he's a bit of a peat head. He really likes peated whiskeys, so this was not quite his style. He did enjoy it, but not to the degree that my other friend, Fred, and myself enjoyed. Not to the same degree, I should say. So let's open that up and pour a little, and we'll talk a little bit about this. There we go. Great cork, by the way. This one is just straight up wood. Looks like a nice hardwood. Anyway, quite nice. Not going to pour too much because I'm going to have to do one more review of this. There we go. That's enough. All right. There we have it. Now, it's unmistakably a Glenmorangie single malt Scotch whiskey. So there's no doubt. I think people who are really familiar with different single malt Scotch whiskeys would take a smell of that, take a whiff of it, and they'd say, this is probably Glenmorangie. And if you remember back to, if you watched, my first review was the 10-year-old. There are some similarities. And there's also some similarities to the former 10-year-old, the previous bottling, as well. And not only that, but the Dutak, which I reviewed not that long ago, there's also some resemblance in some way as far as the character. And so what that is, that's just the indigenous Glenmorangie character that's shining through. And part and parcel is due to the work of one man who I've mentioned a lot, Dr. Bill Lumsden, who is the director of Whiskies and Creation, I believe is his title. Correct me if I'm wrong. Anyway, So a little roll around the glass there. This one is 46% ABV to sale, 46% ABV. It's unchill filtered. Hopefully no additional color added. It is a familiar light color, which you'll find in the Glenmorangie 10-year-old, maybe slightly, is it deeper? But I don't believe that there's color added. I certainly hope not, and definitely not in a private edition, which will not be re-released, so they don't have to worry about what color it is year after year. So anyway, how about the nose on this one? So let's give it a smell. This is like the Glenmorangie 10-year-old with some added spice. Ginger, cinnamon, and cardamom as well. And not to mention vanilla. There's a lot of oak coming through here, a lot of bourbon-based oak. Which, as I've mentioned before, likely from the fantastic oak barrels that are made at the Glenmorangie farm in the Ozarks in Missouri. Okay. Let's try a little bit. Happy New Year one more time to everybody. To the Koreans watching, say hey, 복 많이 받으세요. Happy New Year to you. All the best. Oh, and to the Scotsmen watching, Slangeva. I'm not sure how to say that properly. That's the first time I've tried. I've heard it enough times. This is another bright, spicy, sweet, elegant whiskey from Glenmorangie. I think this certainly hits a lot of bases, and we'll get into individual smelling notes, nosing notes, the tasting notes, and the finishing notes when I do a formal review of this, which will be coming very, very shortly. But I think if you're an American and you really enjoy bourbon, and you're looking for a good Scotch that crosses over, I think this is one of them. So I think there's a lot of spice, a lot of sweetness, a lot of vanilla sweetness that's coming through here, and I think that will really make it something that an American or anyone else all over the world who really likes bourbon can really enjoy. Likewise for lovers of Canadian whiskey, with the sweetness that comes through in Canadian whiskey can be found in Glenmorangie, and definitely in particular in this glass, the spicy character. For Scotch lovers, no doubt you will enjoy this. There is a very light peatiness coming through. This particular whiskey, by the way, is made with a special barley called Maris Otter. Not sure if that's the correct pronunciation. I don't know why I always focus on pronunciation. I guess that's partly because I work in the language industry. So there you have it. Anyway, Maris Otter barley, which was used, I believe, in the 60s in the brewing industry for its flavor. But as it does not have as high a yield, as high of a sugar content, pardon me, Boy, that's quite the horse in my throat. Because it does not have the same kind of yield that newer barley varieties offer, it's pretty much not used at all in the brewing industry so much, and definitely not in the whiskey industry. So so lower yields. So when they run it through the still, the final product, just not as much of it. So what does that mean? It just means it's more expensive to use. And when you are looking at something like the 10-year-old from Glenmorangie, for example, you need the volume to get the product into the bottles and get them out to the shelves. And if there's a drop in efficiency, that can mean slowdown in production or a drop in quality. And neither of those are a welcome situation. So yields must be high, at least appropriately high, to hit the character that's necessary as well as the volume necessary to send out those boxes to all four corners of the world. Anyway, so Maris Otter, and apparently also floor malted. So malted traditionally in the traditional way on the floor. So someone needs to be raking that and turning it over to ensure that malting is going on at the right particular pace, and that it's finishing at the right time. And it's a lot more hands-on than I guess the industrial malting that's possible and is often used. So I'm going to try that one more time. Also, Happy New Year. All the best in 2016. It's got quite a buttery mouthfeel. And the finish, finish is quite spicy. Some wonderful baking spices. Add a little bit of water there. This also does well with water added. And if it clouds up, don't worry, that's just natural. Although Glenmorangie, with its the tallest stills in Scotland, seems to produce a lighter spirit and does not get as much clouding going on, as much of the Scotch misting happening as whiskies made with shorter stills. Anyway, roll that around. More sweetness. Very much like a bourbon. Something like an apple pie with the cinnamon and those fresh, bright apples. Tones down the spiciness somewhat. Brings out some of the fruitiness of this particular whiskey. And again, baked apples as well as unbaked, as well as fresh raw apples, young apples, and then in the finish, again, you've got baking spices going on there, and you're left with a bit of a fruitiness character, spices, and just a hint of peat in there as well. So quite elegant, quite complex, and I think it is definitely worth the slightly pricey character, the slightly pricey ticket on this particular whiskey. I think in Winnipeg, if you are if you're shopping in Winnipeg, it's still available. I think it's roughly about $150 or 160 Canadian dollars, and plus taxes, unfortunately. Oh goodness. USA, I think a little bit less, maybe right around the $100 mark, and in UK, I think it's roughly about 75 pounds. Now you may be wondering what I'm doing over here. I've got my dog. This is Rocky. I'm going to bring him out. Rocky, why don't you say Happy New Year to everybody? Say Happy New Year. Happy New Year, everyone. Rocky's a Yorkshire Terrier, and he is 5 years old. In fact, it was his birthday. Did I miss your birthday? Oh, goodness. And it's a very good dog. And he does like the smell of whiskey. See that? He licked his chops. Oh, he's a good dog. Okay, Rocky, you go to bed now. Go to bed. All right, sorry about the interruption. So that's Glenmorangie to sale. And I think it is definitely something that you should pick up if you like Glenmorangie, if you like Highland single malt Scotch whiskey, if you like Scotch whiskey, period. It is a no age statement whiskey, but sources tell me that this is definitely a minimum of 10 years old. And, well, we won't get into that. I'm not going to fault them for not putting an age statement on that. Everything else ticks all of the boxes. Fantastic whiskey, and as such, I've crowned it as my best spend it single malt Scotch whiskey of the year. All right, so that's it for me here at Whiskey Whistle. My name is Mark. Please do subscribe. That would be a big help, and share this whiskey. Hopefully you'll go out and buy it. If so, please leave me a comment and tell me what you think. Okay? All right, all the best and take care.